Hello and welcome to today's episode of Comms Business Live. Today we're looking at how to move your telco to the cloud and keep your customers. I'm delighted to be joined by Andriy, CEO of Porter One. Welcome, Andriy.
Hello, and thank you.
First off, for anyone watching that isn't familiar with Porter One, can you talk me through what your company does and how you work with the channel?
We provide a set of essential tools for telco business, billing, BSS, soft switch, to allow agile operators develop new services, create new services in-house, and quickly launch them.
And what is cloud native and how would you define it?
There are many definitions which are based on the technology, and I try to avoid them because the same thing as with KPIs. If you're ever doing your KPIs, instead of doing the actual work, people may try to hack the KPIs. So the same thing with cloud native. It's not about which specific technology is being used. It's more how people are actually operating it. And so for me, cloud native is a way of thinking and operating your platform, whether it's BSS, CRM, or anything else. Can you think of it as a set of small connected pieces, and can you plan evolution and update of those pieces separately? Can you scale them up and not the whole thing, but maybe just some components? And when you design it, when you add new pieces to this puzzle, are you applying the same methodology?
And how can companies move from a more traditional telco setup to a cloud native one?
Mm-hmm. And right now, this is a problem which everybody's trying to solve. And there are two main approaches. One is, let's build a bright and shiny new cloud native system, and then let's move there. And the evolution approach. I mean, you have an existing business, you have existing customers, you cannot really afford to stop launching new products or stop selling to new customers for a few years until that perfect new system is ready. So how can you move there? How can you improve the system and keep your customers, keep your revenue coming? And I also kind of compare it with planning your visit to the gym. Yes, you can come to perfect and great gym with a lot of equipment, with the best tools. But if your mindset is not right, if you're not used to getting up at 8 a.m. every day and going there, it would not help you that much. So for me, getting into that agile mentality, into the cloud mentality, and starting doing this, doing small frequent rollouts, thinking about the infrastructure as a set of these small components, it's the first thing. After that, you'll be able to do it with great gym, with a not so great gym, with a homemade gym, but you'll get there.
And what would you say are the biggest obstacles on cloud deployments for telcos these days?
2 or 3 years ago, I would probably put on the first place just the superstitions and not being ready to depart, to throw away all these precious servers and hardware and put your faith, put your whole business on something which you cannot really touch. I think these days it's dwindling, and there are not too many people who would refuse going to the cloud just because it's something ethereal, they don't sense it. There are some minor obstacles for developing countries, like availability of data centers or some network delays, but that also becoming less and less important. So I think right now, as I see, this is a problem of people getting into the cloud and keeping too much of their old luggage with them and the old habits. Because going to the cloud, that's an opportunity for them to make a change in their architecture, in the processes, and make it better. But as frequently happens when people and telco orders a new billing system, a new CRM, there's a list of requirements. They kind of gather everything they can find from their existing systems and saying, okay, it has to support all of that, plus some new cool things. And that makes immigration difficult or sometimes even impossible. Like the same thing, somebody would be buying a new car, but if they put in the requirements, it has to have the stirrups and a saddle has to be very comfortable. Kills the whole purpose. So right now, I think it's about seeing a clear path and being willing to sacrifice some of the kind of old days functionality which is not needed anymore, and change the pieces for the better.
Yeah, some great guidelines for people there in not keeping hold of baggage, as you mentioned, when you don't always need to. So how can companies make the choice between cloud vendors once they've made the decision to pursue cloud? And what is the advantage of kind of going all in on one vendor? And are there any drawbacks to that tactic?
Mm-hmm. I think the choice of the cloud vendors, it should be mostly the headache of application vendors like Portaman, because we have to choose the technology, we have to make sure our components work. For telcos, it should not really matter. Just like I'm using a laptop and maybe it has Intel CPU, maybe it has AMD. There are some minor differences there, but for me as an application user of the laptop, I'm more interested in things which are important to me. So right now, vendors like ourselves, yes, it's a tough choice because there are advantages of each vendor. There are specific pieces of technology attached to it. But from a consumer perspective, from a telco, what we should worry about, okay, what's the availability? And just a couple of weeks ago, we learned that although cloud, it seems to be somewhere out there, it's not untouchable by physical problems. A data center by OVH, one of the major data centers provider in Europe, just burned down completely. We actually had some of our infrastructure in that center. Fortunately, we had backup in different locations. We were able to come back pretty fast, but I'm subscribed to a few news groups and people are still dealing with the consequences of that. So the important thing is not which cloud vendor you use, but how you organize your application, what kind of level of redundancy you put in. Do you have backups in the same physical location as the production servers? And of course, cost is one of the important considerations because the computing resources, that's the most commonly used thing in the cloud. So of course, the cost savings would be one of the factors which would drive telcos into the cloud, because it's one thing something which looks nice to a CTO and he prefers a better and cleaner architecture. The other thing, if financial control, if they see, well, in 2 years, they can reduce their operating cost by X%, then there'll be more people on board, there'll be more people supporting that idea.
And looking to the future, what do you see as coming next in the journey towards wide-scale cloud adoption?
As I previously mentioned, I think that what needs to happen for telcos, for enterprise customers, it's to adopt that mentality of small and gradual evolution. Because I've seen it many times in the projects when you plan this big jump, people get scared, they try to procrastinate, and that moment never comes. Or sometimes when it comes, you cannot think everything through. You cannot plan everything beforehand. So instead, what we offer to our customers right now, it's the ability kind of abandoning the idea of doing update from version 1 to version 2. We're doing this gradual rollout, small customer batches from releases, so you can observe, you can see what's happening there, you have full control. So something like this should become like a standard. So people should think about this as a standard way of operating. Once they've done that, the choice of cloud providers doesn't matter that much because, well, if they now in AWS and then they want to evaluate Google Cloud, and for them it's just another target and they test and everything works fine, they just go there. Or if they plan to develop new services, they can get out of this typical telco challenge. You have operations team, which says, okay, don't touch anything. We want stability. We want existing customers to thrive. And then there is sales and marketing saying, well, but we need this cool new product. If we can launch it by the end of the year, it's going to be so great. Introduce some changes there. And in the traditional paradigm, there is no easy way out of this. Again, if we adopt this cloud approaches and, well, this is our system, it operates in a different set of components. So here we have as our legacy customer set. This is where we put our new customers. We can go there, and it means operators, they can move at the speed which is required by different departments or different lines of businesses. They're not, so operations team doesn't become a bottleneck.
Absolutely, and lots of great advice there on how telcos can go about this transition. Thanks a lot for joining us this afternoon. I'm sure you've given all of our viewers lots of food for thought. And thanks everyone for tuning in. It's been great talking to you this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.